I was 23 broke and ugly crying into a cracked screen in a studio that smelled like damp drywall and instant noodles when I fat-fingered the call. I meant to ring my best friend. Instead, a calm voice said, "Rowan Hale." Deep, steady, the kind of voice that closes deals and never runs for buses. I froze. "I'm sorry. Wrong number." He didn't hang up. He said, "You sound wrecked. You want 60 seconds to breathe." And for some reason I did. I told a stranger that my third job in 3 months had slipped through my hands, that rent was due Friday, that my mom's chemo was making soup taste like metal, that the bus broke down and the manager didn't care. I laughed in that bitter way you do when crying gets boring. "It's fine. I'll figure it out. I always do." "Do you code?" he asked, like he'd been waiting for that question all night. It threw me. Since high school. Mostly for fun. Community college until life. "What have you built?" "Tiny things. A pattern-spotting bot. A puzzle solver. Nothing that pays the electric bill." He went quiet. "Then I run Ether Labs in Austin. We're opening paid apprenticeships. Unusual candidates. Flexible hours. Real work. If you can pass a test, I'll make sure you're seen." I almost hung up. Why would you do that for a random girl who can't even dial right? Maybe you're not random. A breath. Pass the test. I didn't sleep. I coded like a feral thing until sunrise, took the exam on a borrowed laptop, and 2 days later I was in a glass tower that looked like a spaceship had landed on South Congress. Me, Eva Morales, in a blazer from a thrift store, shoes that squeaked, trying not to gape at the lobby walls that grew live moss like we were wealthy woodland elves. Rowan Hale. Yes, that Rowan Hale shook my hand and my brain tried to reboot. The man had the posture of a statue and tired eyes like he'd out-argued the sun. "You earned a shot," he said. "What you do with it is yours." They put me with Naomi Park, who ran the apprenticeship like boot camp with manners. She had a precise bob, a precise walk, and a precise way of saying, again, whenever my code worked, but wasn't beautiful. It hurt in the best way. I'd go from stand-ups to the infusion center with my mom, then back to Ether Labs typing to the rhythm of IV beeps still stuck in my head. And slowly, the ground under my life felt less like a trapdoor. 2 weeks in hunting a bug inside a dusty permissions layer, I saw it a directory that winked wrong. Encrypted different with this weird little heartbeat I recognized from a hackathon challenge years ago. I flagged it to David, the dev director, with kind eyes behind crooked glasses. He forgot to be kind. "Where did you see that?" he asked, voice suddenly tight. He left to get Rowan, and Naomi came back with security badges, and the air felt thinner. Rowan listened, jaw set. "Show us," he said. And when I walked them through the path, the breadcrumb trail only visible. "If you knew how to tilt your head," he nodded once. "Add her to Sentinel," he told Naomi. "Full clearance. Full. Rowan, she's been here 12 days. He didn't blink. She sees patterns. That's how I learned about Sentinel, the project Ether Labs had been building to protect critical infrastructure from the kind of hacks you only hear about after the lights go out. And that's how I learned about Titan Dynamics, their slick, smiling competitor, and the suspicion that someone inside Ether Labs was piping Sentinel's guts straight to Titan. The night it broke open was the gala chandeliers, rented tuxes, the kind of music that makes rich people nod. Naomi told me to stand tall, speak like I belonged, and not eat anything skewered. I was trying not to trip over the hem of a green dress a stylist swore was effortless when a man with a magazine cover smile drifted up. "Derek Vaughn," he said, offering champagne. "Chief Marketing Officer, Titan Dynamics." His cologne smelled like ambition. "And you are new," I said, keeping my face open and my spine wary. He did that flirty business laugh. Fresh eyes. Dangerous. "You should come tour Titan sometime, Eva. We value initiative. Funny I said so, does my team lead. Which is why you looked bored 2 minutes ago," he murmured, leaning in. "Let me show you what interesting looks like." Before I could lob the glass at his $1,000 shoes, a hand touched the small of my back. Polite, proprietary, unmistakable. "Rowan." "Evening, Derek," he said, all leather-bound civility. "I see you've met one of ours. One worth stealing." Derek smiled, eyes going flinty at the edges. "Not tonight," Rowan said, and guided me away like it was a dance. Was that Titan's velvet knife, Rowan said under his breath. Don't bleed. We were on a balcony when his phone buzzed and the air snapped tight. We need to go, he said. Back at the tower, the emergency team was already humming. Someone had pulled the core Sentinel architecture using executive credentials. Whose? Rowan asked, voice flat. David swallowed. Yours. The room went dead quiet. Naomi's eyes cut to me, not accusing, just running scenarios. His youth needs biometrics, she said. Face and touch. They were lifted, I blurted before I could swallow the thought. At the gala, Derek handed me a glass. You took it from me, set it down. Prince. And when you stepped away to talk to the board, your phone. Sat by Marla. Rowan finished, every muscle in his face locked. Marla Quinn, his assistant for 15 years, the woman who scheduled his life to the half-minute. Security scrubbed footage. A cleaner entered the executive floor who wasn't a cleaner. Victor Kana, Titan's CTO, wearing a badge that opened a door it should never have opened. They caught Marla in the garage with a burner and a suitcase. She didn't bother with theatrics. I was always invisible to you, she told Rowan when they brought her upstairs. Titan saw me. The servers were still hemorrhaging. I can interrupt the transfer. I said, fingers already moving, but I need a full lockdown. It'll take the company offline for a day. Do it, Rowan said. Crash the sun if you have to. We stopped it with minutes to spare. Still, they got enough to be dangerous, and they pulled personnel files too. Rowan looked at me like a man picking a lock he didn't want to open. There's something you should know, Eva. Your last name is not random to me. I felt the floor wave. What are you talking about? Your father, Diego. Morales wasn't a salesman who walked out, he said quietly. He was my partner. We started Ether Labs together. Naomi's breath caught. David stared. 6 years ago, he dug up proof that Titan was exporting surveillance tools to regimes that make people disappear. He was going to expose them. They threatened you and your mother. He vanished so you'd live. No. The word came out small and mean. He left us. He staged it, Rowan said. And before he went under, he built Sentinel as a failsafe. A map only someone who thought like him could read. He held my gaze. Like you. I didn't cry. I thought of the puzzle games my dad used to draw on napkins when I was a kid, the way he'd whisper, see the rhythm hiding in the noise. I spent 72 hours straight inside the code. Beneath Sentinel's bones, using a cipher only a Morales would notice, he'd left coordinates. A date. A time. Outside Vancouver. It's either a trap, Naomi said, or a reunion. Rowan said, we go. By the book with a team. The house was nothing, beige vinyl siding, a porch that creaked like it had secrets. I didn't knock so much as push. The man who opened the door had my eyes. He said my name like he'd been practicing it in the dark. I didn't hug him right away. I inspected his face like an evidence board. Then I broke. You don't get to be a ghost, I said into his shoulder. You don't. I know, he whispered. But you're here, which means you solved it. We didn't have time for all the apologies. He had boxes, receipts, contracts, export logs, emails that read like confessionals from the worst men alive. Titan had sold silence to dictators. People died. We don't just win a lawsuit, my dad said. We haul the truth into daylight. The press conference scorched. Naomi spoke like a blade. David walked reporters through technical proof a senator could comprehend. Rowan announced Ether Labs would open source Sentinel so no one could bury it again. Then my father stepped out, not dead, not lost, just stubborn, and said, I love my family, and I love this country, and I love the right to speak without vanishing. The room erupted. Derek Vaughn was arrested at a private airstrip. Victor Kana tried to run and found out extradition is a verb. Titan's stock fell like a faulty elevator. After on Rowan's lake deck, the cheap chairs, the expensive sky, my mom laughed for the first time in months without coughing halfway through. She squeezed my dad's hand, then mine, like she could knit time back together if she just held on tight. Rowan stood beside me, not touching, but near enough that I could feel the heat off him. I answered that call because I recognized your name, he said, eyes on the water. But everything since, that's you. Everything since I said has been a lot of people not giving up. I looked at him. Where does that leave us? He smiled in this tired, hopeful way I hadn't seen before. You're my colleague, my equal. And I'm a man who hasn't stopped thinking about the woman who knocked on a door coded in ciphers and grief. Dinner first, I said, because I'm a romantic, but I'm not an idiot. 6 months later, I was director of security ethics, a title I made up and then earned every long night. My dad built with David again. Naomi pretended not to soft smile in my direction. My mom went back to teaching and brought soup to the interns like a benevolent queen. Rowan called one evening, no wrong number this time, and said, "Pack light. I'm showing you stars. Do I think fate dialed for me? I think someone taught a girl to hear rhythms in noise, and when the world turned up, the static, she listened harder. I think power likes to hide behind glass doors and perfect teeth, and sometimes the person they least expect to notice the seam is the one who pulls the whole costume apart. I think being underestimated is a kind of training, brutal slow, and when the door finally cracks, you sprint. Now you tell me, if someone you love vanished for your own good, would you forgive them, or would you call it what it is? Abandonment with better PR. Is loyalty to a company ever worth silence when lives are on the line? And what about me and Rowan? Power imbalance or two grown adults who did the work to meet in the middle? Drop your take in the comments. Tell me what you've seen: the bosses who listened, the ones who didn't, the moments you were written off and wrote yourself back in. If you believe truth beats fear, hit like, hit subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear that wrong numbers sometimes change everything.